wonderful Wednesday, start of January 2025. In the fourth quarter of 24, we sat in this room figuring out coming year would look like, what the ideal types of clients that we'd work with, and the ideal types of projects we would work on. As we wrote that back in the fall, what would you say, how are we doing with that?
It's been a really good start. I think we took the slow season to prep. With Bryce's initiative, he got us prepping for the next upcoming year, 2025. And so far, we think kind of crushing it. You know, we've been building out the infrastructure in terms of what apps we're using and the APIs, how they interact with each other. And we've started working with the sorts of clients that we want to work with on the scale that we want to work with them.
In a meaningful way.
In a meaningful way.
It's organized and strategic.
Right. Yeah, and it was good that we set up all that stuff during the winter break. So for a little reference, during winter, we did a lot of prepping for advertising materials for both Bravo Team, which is what we're doing here, and then 3D Virtually There, which is Bryce's media company. And so now we're kind of reaping the benefits and rolling into it, getting the ball really rolling.
One of the main things that we're doing these days is acquisition. So maybe you can enlighten me what you've been doing lately.
Bryce asked me to take a look into Monday.com and PandaDoc, and the whole point of that was to be able to quickly import lists of people's names who, their properties we might be interested in, and being able to quickly convert those into contracts that are legally viable and ready to be mailed out for the owners to take a look at. And the whole point of that is just to be able to do rapid acquisition of areas of land for the clients that we want to work with.
Yeah, that would be on the more significant things, but also we also work with other clients as well that are what
Smaller
I call
scale.
mom and pop investors. Maybe you could talk about some of the mom and pop investors you started working with.
Sure, yeah. So this season, after the slow winter, we really got started with doing some, as you said, mom and pop investments. And the way it's showed itself to me this month has been mainly through housing. So I have a few clients right now who are all looking for housing, mainly as sources of investment. So we're talking low scale starter homes in the 300,000 price range. And the whole point of that was just to be, really get some money into equity so that your equity can grow over time as you live there and reap the benefits of, living where you want to be.
So let's talk about that, because that could be an overlooked thing, but it can also be a type of investment strategy that most people could do.
What I've been helping with this last week, particularly something I've been helping with, is a 19-year-old. A 19-year-old who's buying his first home. Now, this 19-year-old, he isn't making any crazy amount of money. He doesn't have significant wealth. In fact, he refuses to accept any help from anyone else. What he's doing is he is moving down to a location that's a little farther out, still a great location, but he's buying a new built home for low interest rates, for a low price because it's in a more suburban area, and he's paying $1,700 a month to own a house in an area that he works in. And so like Bryce said, this is something that anyone can do, and that's been proven to me.
So what would be his goal? Was he going to live there for a period of time?
Correct.
And then what?
So his goal is to live there for at least a year, up to 5 years, while he makes more money, starts a new branch of his business, and then proceeds to buy another home. So the house that he's buying is, it's nothing luxurious. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,400 square feet, small place. But the point is that it's in the path of growth, exploding community. While he gets to live in this basic house, although being basic, he gets to gain a lot of value in it over time. And he gets the benefit of time since he's so young.
So then, let's say a year to 2 years from now, he puts together a down payment for the second property. And at that point, he can buy a new one, live in the new one.
And then you're a double house owner.
Yes.
And that's shown itself to me as well through another client I've been working with who bought his house 4 years ago, paying $1,200 a month and is now leasing it for, or going to be leasing it very shortly here for $2,000 a month. 4-year difference, you're making $800 a month extra.
So what might that look like if you did that, say, 5 times over a 10-year period?
You'd be owning 5 homes in 10 years. And ideally, if you have the time to wait, which most of us do, then you will basically be passively paying for the mortgages on these homes while gaining extra income.
So let's do the math. What's the average price of a home that these investors are looking at?
Let's say $350.
Okay, and we said 5 homes over a 10-year period.
Correct.
What does that come out to?
$1,750, I think.
No, I
Or
meant.
1.75 million.
Say that again.
1.75 million. Let me make
Okay,
sure I'm
so
correct on that
technically,
calculation.
on paper, they would be owning assets totaling 1.7 mil. So that's a pretty good path to becoming a millionaire.
And while it's going to take time, it sets you up tremendously.
So aside from cash flow, what's one of the other big benefits of owning cash flowing assets that most people tend to forget about?
I would say it brings in the cash flow, but also, especially in a state like Arizona where we live, where it's very rapidly growing, the Sunbelt states are growing tremendously fast. There's the kind of hidden cash flow of equity gain.
So you're talking about capital appreciation.
Capital appreciation.
Good. That's the long term. So along the way, there's this thing called their tax benefits, which reduce one's taxable income. And obviously, tax benefits are one of the big, beautiful things about owning real estate.
I'll let you talk about that since you're more in the tax planning part of life than I am.
Well, it's one of the few assets that allows you to reduce your tax liabilities or defer your tax liabilities or to have lower tax liabilities. I'm using these statements because, first of all, I'm not a CPA. I'm aware of the concepts because of my training with CCIM. So we'll leave the definites of tax benefits to be answered by your CPA first and foremost. So these are recommendations highlighting the benefits of owning real estate. Let's move on. What are some of the other things that we could speak about regarding real estate in 2025?
Picking, I guess, the right pieces of land for the projected trajectory of growth in your area. Because as something you have experience with, owning lots in a rural area, that you kind of buy at a low price and you wait and you sell it at a higher price. You're just waiting for the trajectory to take its course.
That's one approach. Absolutely.
There's also value add.
Let's talk about value add.
Okay, so let's use the example.
My favorite topic.
Let's use the example of that lot I was looking for a client, close client of mine. You know what I'm talking about. It was the 15 acres. There's 2 15-acre parcels that we were looking at.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Sure. Okay, so we have some listings, and they are in an area that is projected to grow rapidly, in a county that is growing very quickly. And right now it is blank, bare land located in a planned luxury gated community. What it is right now is about 15 acres for 150.
Yeah.
And basically, with that HOA community, the minimum lot size is 2 acres. So a project that I've proposed to some clients is that you buy this land for, we'll say 150, and that is going to be split amongst 7 parcels once it's split. So let's say 150 divided by 7 is going to be 21 grand a piece. And then what you do on these 2 acre parcels is you install a well. We do 2 wells, so that's going to be probably 100 grand total. You do septic tanks, which I believe was 15 grand a piece, and you do some electrical boxes, which is going to cost maybe 5 grand a piece. And you come out to, once you prorate those costs.
So it sounds like you're starting to add up to a lot of money.
It does sound like a lot of money. It doesn't need to be paid all at once.
So let's bottom line this for the audience because they're hearing all these numbers.
Sure.
And it sounded like, whoa, this is getting.
I'm a numbers guy.
This is getting very expensive. Why the heck would I start putting more money into the thing that you're asking me to buy?
So the benefit is that as you start doing this, and you can take out a construction loan, you could finance certain parts, you could do this over the course of several years, or you could just do like one part of it. The point is that you are adding value, you are taking on the project, the duty of adding value and very valuable assets to this land, to take it from the very low priced land that it is currently and turning it into multiple times what it was worth before. So my end goal, and what I was kind of getting at, is that once it's all done, you resell the land for a lot more.
So let's explain why that is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The why is everyone loves convenience.
Right.
And people are willing to pay a premium for convenience.
That's true. Yeah, that's really what the money comes from.
To solve for the unknowns and to buy the ready-made.
Correct.
So what we've seen across markets, where a lot that is finished, that is ready to build,
convenient lots,
sell for a premium.
Very much so.
Compared to a lot in the very same area, it doesn't have the improvements, does not sell for the same price.
Nowhere close. A fraction of the price.
Right. And then the other thing that we see across markets, this is just you study a market, you look at the facts, and the facts will tell you that lots that are ready to build tend to sell first and faster.
Much faster.
And for more. That's just typical. That's what we see. So when we're talking about a value add situation, and you're looking to, my eyes tend to look up into the sky, and that's my way of thinking about me trying to put some words to the thought that I have in my mind.
Right. And recalling experiences that you've had with these very situations.
Yeah. So the data across the markets tell us that that's the case. People want convenience. They want things solved. They want things that take them from there's the lot, and now I can imagine the home I'm going to build,
right,
or the life I'm going to build there.
So as a CCIM and investment specialists, I would say that it's our duty and our job, and what we have done is finding the undervalued, diamond in the rough, as they say, polishing it up with, value add, and selling it for the true gem that it is, and making the money for our clients, which is the spread between what they paid for all those improvements and what they walked away with from the convenience premium that we charge, which has been proven to be very effective for building wealth.
Mm-hmm. So basically what you just described is the simplified summary of value add in a piece of land. So there's the passive approach, which is buy, hold, do nothing, or
Correct.
Buy, improve, and sell for.
Right. It's
the
lift. Proactive. You grab the bull by the horns and steer it.
That would essentially be defined as ideally the ideal types of projects that we like to be involved in. In this particular year, one topic that actually we're in the middle of, right as we speak right now in California, there are fires. It's a disaster.
Absolutely.
And there's no pointing fingers as to being prepared, not being prepared. The reality is that Mother Nature is having very strong winds, and it is spreading a fire to a densely populated area. There is loss of property and life and pets, and which is devastating to anyone involved in any of that. When the ashes settle, there will be rebuilding. But the reality is the persons that are going to be rebuilding are probably not the persons that own that, what I will call today, that lot. Because what used to be a house is now a lot.
It's been wiped clean.
So most of those people will probably sell, and they will probably move.
Right. And there will be someone who comes in and swoops it up for more than anyone else can.
I mean, it's a clean slate-ish. There's some cleanup that's going to need to be done. And hopefully the state of California and Los Angeles County will make it easier to do responsible reconstruction. Hopefully the federal government might help. That all these things all remain to be seen.
Hopefully
obviously.
less zoning.
So, well, that's the thing. The zoning and environmental requirements in the area is so restrictive that perhaps they could create some sort of master plan type of development where
Yeah.
where the county or the town does all of the required engineering for the entirety. So the one report handles the whole region as opposed to like every single person having to do it, so that they speed up the process.
Right.
And maybe they even put some library of blueprints on approval.
Right. I'm
with
interested.
the town, with the state. I mean, with the town. Sorry, so that they can accelerate reconstruction.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing. It seems that both state and federal governments are both interested in removing the barriers to being able to rebuild quickly. Federal more so across the board, across the country, but state, I think that it's going to provide an opportunity, like we've seen with cul-de-sac Tempe, for example, where it's, walkable communities, it's, mixed zoning. If you're familiar with that at all, I've been keeping up. It's very like a European style development. And I think that since we've never really seen, since maybe the fires of Seattle way back when, we've never really seen the complete clean slate of a large city like that. It might be interesting to see what modern developments with modern needs in mind in a densely populated area might look like.
Okay, so we're talking now reconstruction and design standards, which would be different types of floor plans, different type of unit mixes,
and maybe
fire safety,
different zoning than we've seen before.
Different zoning, but a lot more fire safety.
More fire safety.
Probably not only just in the interior of the building, but also the exterior of the building.
Correct.
Because I'm hearing that there are some buildings that survived. There are some new construction buildings.
Is that right?
I think Tom Hanks' house survived, and a few other new builds that I heard of. And they had like metal roofs, they had like tempered glass, they had certain types of stucco.
Metal roofs is interesting.
Yeah.
Because I think metal roof, I actually saw something on this recently about the difference between German and American roof design, because Germany uses metal roofs. While, I saw some people being concerned with the use of metal roofs in America because we have Tornado Alley. They were talking about how, giving a tornado metal roofs to rip up is like giving it bullets to throw, So metal roofs, I think regionally can be very interesting, especially in California where there are so many wildfires. Maybe not across the board, but I think regionally might be a very interesting thing to look at.
Maybe they'll come up with some sort of fire safety design. The other thing I'd heard was that using block, concrete, and metal perimeter fencing, using stone around the perimeter of a house, moving shrubs, basically moving things away from the exterior of the house that can burn to save it from being burned.
So in terms of, safe, fire safe and quick construction, what do you think of, we've been talking about Century Homes lately, how they've been doing 3D printing using concrete. That sounds like it's both fast and fire safe. So do you think that has any sort of application to the California, Los Angeles region?
The 3D printing, while it is made of concrete, concept is wonderful. It's a great concept.
But in practice, might not be ready.
So the challenge that I've heard with these types of things is that in the practical construction of it is, yes, it's faster. The design, the floor plan is very fixed. Once it's done, it's hard to change.
Right.
So, but during the construction, the machinery itself, you must have ideal conditions, ideal weather conditions, because concrete.
That's why they do Arizona.
Well, it has to be done at a certain time of day or a certain time of year. So the moisture and temperature of the concrete has to be just right so that it doesn't clog up the machine.
I see.
So it's a slurry, and so it has to be thick enough, and it has to set at a certain rate, but it can't set too fast so much that the machine gets clogged up and gets messed up.
If it sets too fast, the machine is bricked.
So doing it at scale might work. It might happen.
It might be an interesting time to develop that technology, considering that it's both quick and fire safe.
They also have these concrete styrofoam blocks. So we're talking about like construction methods that might be fire safe. Hopefully they've been working on it. Maybe they can
Hopefully, yeah.
implement it, and maybe that when they rebuild, the reconstruction is in such a way that is resilient to it, because the winds will continue.
Right. There needs to be, we need to learn from our mistakes because it's something that can be recreated in the same area.
In the here and now, the persons that can't return home, that will walk away and say, I'm not going back.
Which might be a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people when
So where they
feel
gonna go?
anchored.
Where
Right.
are they going to go?
I think a lot of people feel anchored to where they live, and when they're in a situation where, unfortunately, what they're familiar with gets ripped away from them, that might also, at the same time, be an opportunity to explore other possibilities, which they have been thinking about, but have been locked into, staying where they have been.
So where do you think that might be? Like Lancaster,
Well, we've seen-
Bakersfield,
Oh,
Apple
Bakersfield!
Valley?
I'm sure Bakersfield. No, what we've seen is
So Phoenix,
with the vast growth
Bakersfield.
of the Sunbelt, is that they're going to move to Arizona, they're going to move to Texas, they're going to move to Oklahoma, they're going to move to
Lancaster?
Florida.
Phoenix.
Right. They're going to move to Phoenix.
What do you think? You think they're gonna like move just a little bit further out of LA, or they gonna be like, I'm done. I'm gonna go to Arizona.
I think if you're at that spot where everything you have gets ripped away and hopefully you have fire insurance to pay you out. I personally, that's what I did, is I left California and I came here, which, sorry, but it might be a good opportunity to get more for your money. And especially with the industrial growth that we're seeing in Arizona with chips, technology, all that stuff, this might be a great opportunity for lots of people to come here.
So if you're watching this and you're in California and your home was lost, my sympathies go to you. And if you're thinking about what it's like in Arizona, well, I'll just say this really clearly. Today, in the middle of winter, it is sunny and it's probably 70 degrees outside. It was probably 50 degrees this morning on my way to the gym. It's a beautiful place.
It is.
And so we welcome you. And if you're thinking about where to invest in 2025 for real estate,
There's a lot of good opportunities. Specifically, I think we agree that Pinal County has a lot of opportunity for growth and is a
that's
really
one.
good spot for
That
investment.
is-
For the Goldilocks zone of investment time frame, I would say Pinal County.
Okay, so when you speak of the term Goldilocks, describe what you mean and then maybe describe some of the other areas that might fit that.
Right, so we all know the story of Goldilocks, where she tries all the different porridges and one is just right. And in this case, we're talking about time frame. There's a few different factors that go into investment, but I think the most important is that you have the money when you need it. And for some people that might be longer than others. But for Pinal County, this seems to be a pretty immediate, meaning 5 to 15 years is when we're going to see the most growth in Pinal, and that's going to drive up prices, and that's going to drive up the equity on your home or on your land. People are going to be buying things up to build. It's projected to be growing very quickly. So if you're in your 50s or late 40s and you're looking to have money in 10, 15 years for retirement,
Okay, Goldilocks.
That's what I consider to be the Goldilocks
So that's
time frame.
a good term, and in fact, I have never heard that term before.
I came up with it.
That's good. I'm going to remember that, and I'm going to use that. So let's describe what happens then if you maybe go outside of the Goldilocks zone.
Sure. Well, I think that you can attest that a lot of these landowners that we see around Arizona, the real big ones where everyone in the land game knows their name, they bought a long time ago in areas that are still maybe not desirable, but what we've seen, or the most desirable, but what we've seen is that their land that they bought for pennies on the dollar is now worth far more than they bought it for, and the difference is that has taken decades instead of a decade.
So yeah, let's so the reason that I bring that up is because we do have a lot of planned growth for the Phoenix metro area.
Correct.
We have so much growth that is planned for the next 50 years that there is a lot of political support and influence to ensure that all of the resources stay within that Goldilocks zone.
Sure.
Being that water,
Mm-hmm.
water rights remain or become imported into that Goldilocks zone area.
Sure.
So it's important to state that because if you're looking to own properties outside of that region, or if you own properties that are outside of the Goldilocks region, like let's just be just real plain and simple, there's so much growth planned for the perimeter of town that will take 50 years to build up.
Sure.
So, that being said, who has 50 years to wait for an investment to go up?
Someone my age or my client's age who bought a house. But, right, yeah, that, like I said, that all depends on the time frame. We tend to see Middle Eastern families have generational land that they own, and that builds up over time. So it kind of depends. There's, the people who want to see it in their lifetime, who, might be young, and then there's the people who plan on creating family wealth, like we tend to see with our Middle Eastern clients and landowners and things.
Land ownership in our country is valued. Land ownership is viscerally important to those of us that are here.
Right.
Anyone from the Americas, it's an important thing.
Right. It's a building block of the great nation of
Yes.
the United States.
And because of that, and because of what its reputation for the rule of law, it is also known amongst the world that people that are not born in this country, that are from somewhere else that come here, land ownership is even more important.
Right. They might not be used to the rule of law, or maybe the amount of land, or the importance of land.
Well,
Less so important.
The histories from their origin country have shown them to basically influence them to aspire to have land ownership,
Sure.
to have a greater need for it than most people. And for that reason, we work predominantly with a lot of individuals who are of foreign origin.
Right. And they tend to, a lot of these individuals from foreign origins tend to really value land ownership, and also seem to have a longer timeline in terms of how long they're willing to wait to reap the benefits of the capital gain. So we see that with familial wealth being built up amongst generations, being passed down, and while still upholding the same values of holding this land and gaining value over time from it.
The thing is that it is a record of our thoughts.
Sure.
And these records of our thoughts, you have to remember that if someone views it, that you don't want it to be taken out of context.
Sure.
So that's why
I understand.
using the word foreign born doesn't specifically name the types of individuals in which
Sure.
we work with.
Yeah, I think people in the land industry would know what I'm talking about, but I guess the people outside might not. In terms of might take some offense to it, or
And there may be some, yes, and there might also be that. So, the things that we talk about, we have to remember, it's a record of our thoughts, it's a record of our interaction, and sellers will see this and buyers will see this. So while we work with sellers, we also work with buyers.
correct.
And we want to be very clear that we work with both, and that we want them to know.
Right. Today was kind of buyer oriented, but we should definitely do some seller oriented stuff.
So what's good about being mindful of what we say and how we talk is that we want to set realistic expectations for the sellers that we work with, And we also want to set realistic expectations for the buyers that we work with. Because maybe a seller thinks that their land is worth more than it really is.
Right.
And a buyer may think that they should acquire something for way less than what it's worth. And so the words that we speak that might get
They carry
broadcasted
lots
into
of
the world,
value, lots of meaning.
so we want to ensure that they understand that we are reasonable individuals with insightful minds that will do, you know, we will have a fiduciary duty that is lawful.
Right. And also, I think, building on the value and the meaning of our words is something that I've definitely learned, and I know you've learned is basically under promise and over deliver. You know, you never want to promise too much, and have a client depending on that, and then maybe be unable to deliver what you said or what you might have mentioned in passing.